Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving straight into the breathtaking origins of one of India's absolute greatest historical figures, the architect of the Maratha Empire himself, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. But, here's the thing. To truly grasp the brilliant sunrise that was his reign, we've got to first look at the deep, deep historical darkness that came before him. We're traveling back almost 300 years. It was an era of total chaos, injustice, and extreme fragmentation. So let's just jump right in and unravel how a fractured land set the perfect stage for a legendary savior.
Okay, let's dive into this with a really powerful invocation straight from our source material. Victory to the destroyer of demons, the goddess who crushes the darkness of Adharma. Wow. It's an ancient, deeply reverent call to Goddess Bhavani. And it immediately sets the stakes, right? People weren't just looking for some new politician. No. They were praying for a literal divine force to crush this overwhelming darkness that had completely blanketed their homeland.
And that brings us to the core metaphor of our sources. Before the sun rises, one must see the darkness. Think about it. The ancient texts, the wisdom of Chanakya, the high ideals of Lord Rama, they were still being worshipped in temples, sure, but they had completely vanished from the actual day-to-day politics of the land. The landscape across India was so chaotic and fractured that the birth of a unifier wasn't just some vague hope, it was an absolute necessity for survival.
Part 1. The Foreign Crisis in the Deccan.
So let's look at exactly what that darkness actually looked like on the ground. We're talking about an impending storm of invasions that would fundamentally change both the geography and the spirit of the region. It was a tragic domino effect. Back in the late 1200s, Alauddin Khilji's military campaigns basically brought a wave of destruction across North India. Temples destroyed, innocents suffering, zero human rights. And soon, this storm rolled south to the wealthy capital of Devagiri. King Ramdev Rai Yadava faced this massive threat, sent desperate messages for help to neighboring kingdoms in Telangana, Gujarat, Karnataka, but nothing. No help came. He had to surrender. This wasn't just a lost battle. This was the first time the Deccan was truly trampled by outsiders, a massive blow to local pride.
And that initial defeat, it just paved the way for total fragmentation. Fast forward to the early 16th century, and the Deccan is completely carved up like a pie among 5 major sultanates: the Imad Shahi, Nizam Shahi, Barid Shahi, Adil Shahi, and Qutub Shahi. But honestly, the most devastating part wasn't just the foreign rule itself. It was how cleverly these sultanates exploited the local Maratha warriors. They constantly pitted them against one another just to maintain their own regional dominance.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute greatest tragedy of the era. On one side of the equation, the wars, the power, the ultimate victories, they belonged entirely to the sultans. But on the other side, the blood soaking the battlefields belonged to the Marathas and Rajputs. They were literally sacrificing their lives, not for their own land, not for independence, but just to appease rival sultans. The light of freedom honestly seemed completely extinguished. Part 2. The Rise of the Bhosale Family. Now, history tells us that when the darkness hits its absolute peak, that's exactly when a spark is waiting to ignite. And that spark was the courageous Bhosale family. They had this proud lineage tracing all the way back to the Sisodia dynasty of Mewar. Yeah, the one famously associated with Maharana Pratap. So how do they rise up from this chaos? It happens in 3 really fascinating steps. First up, brothers Maloji and Vitchoji Raje, living near Varul, restore the ancient Krishneshwar temple. Step 2, this intense religious devotion, paired with some undeniable military skills, grabs the attention of the Nizam Shahi court, specifically deeply impressing a powerful wazir named Malik Ambar. And step 3, because of this, they're actually granted the strategic Jagir, or estate of Pune and Supa. For the very first time, the Bhosale family had their own land and legitimate power base. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that they were finally putting down roots. Maloji Raje married a cultured woman from the Naik Nimbukar family, and after intense prayers, they were blessed with a son, Shahji Raje Bhosale. Maloji Raje wasn't just a ruler. He grew to become a genuinely beloved leader. He protected the people of Pune like they were his own kids, earning some serious, deep-rooted loyalty. But, the brutal reality of the 17th century always comes knocking. Maloji Raje was ordered to the battlefield by the Nizam Shah, and tragically, he never returned. In her profound grief, his wife Umabai resolved to commit sati. But here is where history pivots. In a vital intervention, Vitolji Raje stepped in and stopped her, begging her to live for the sake of the children's future.
And recognizing the family's massive sacrifices, Wazir Melik Ambar immediately transferred the entire Jaghir to the heir, a remarkably young heir, by the way, 5-year-old Shahaji.
Part 3, Shahaji Raje and Jijau.
All right, this brings us to a critical chapter, the union of two immensely powerful figures absolutely destined to change history. As Shahaji grew up, his uncle Vitoji arranged his marriage to Jijau from the prominent Jadhav family. And let me tell you, Jijau was a woman of incredible substance. She was deeply distressed by the relentless atrocities against Hindu temples and the unjust treatment of her people. She brought this fierce, unyielding sense of justice right into the heart of the Bhosale household. Now, what's really interesting about this is the immense political tension lurking right in the background. The warfare in the Deccan was so fierce that it created a bitter rift between their two families. You had the Bhosales often allied with the local Sultanates, while the Jadhav family aligned with the invading Mughals. They were literally on opposite sides of a raging war. Yet despite this massive familial and political chasm, Shahaji and Jijau never ever let it break their personal bond. And right in the middle of all this political turmoil and intense family rivalry, there's a profound moment of joy. In the year 1622, the couple hits a major milestone with the birth of their first son, Sambhaji Raje Bhosale.
Part 4, The Spark of Conflict.
Because, let's face it, peace was pretty much an illusion in the 17th century Deccan. The political landscape violently shatters, and the personal losses for Shahaji are just staggering. A massive war breaks out, and the Jadavs, his own in-laws, are fighting alongside the Mughals directly against him. During this brutal conflict, Shahaji's own brother, Sharafiji Raje, is killed in combat. And after shedding his family's blood for the Nizam Shah, what does he get? Severe disrespect in the royal court. Utterly disillusioned by this complete lack of gratitude, Shahaji makes a huge, bold move. He abandons the Nizam Shah and joins the rival Adil Shahi court. And the Adil Shahi court, they instantly recognized his value. They bestowed upon him the highly prestigious title of Sar Lashkar, which basically means chief commander. This was a clear, undeniable testament to Shahaji's military genius and his rapidly rising influence across these competing empires. During this whole period of intense military shakeups, Jijau becomes pregnant again, and our sources highlight some really fascinating details here. Pregnant Jijau started experiencing these extraordinary desires. She wanted to roam the high forts, practice with swords and weapons, and perform massive acts of charity. The ancient texts tell us that these unique cravings weren't just random. They were a powerful signal, a sign of the divine, warrior-like destiny of the great child growing within her.
Part 5, The Dawn of Swarajya.
Okay, everything we've discussed today, the 300 years of darkness, the fractured sultanates, the spilled blood, the family rifts, it all culminates right here with the birth of self-rule. Shahaji's tolerance for the sultan's tyranny finally just snaps, and he launches a massive rebellion. But the retaliation is swift and it is merciless. The Adil Shahi army marches on his lands and burns the once prosperous city of Pune completely to ashes. Just picture that devastating image for a second. Shahaji's dreams, his literal home, crumbling into a pile of ashes, all because he demanded freedom.
Let's move to see how this builds, because out of that absolute destruction, ultimate triumphs is born. Step 1. Knowing his pregnant wife was in extreme danger, Shahaji urgently relocates Jijau to the safety of the impregnable Shivneri fort. Step 2. Right there, on that sacred soil, a child is finally born to answer the centuries of prayers from the people. And step 3, that child is named Shivaji. His birth on the heights of Shivneri marked the true dawn of Swarajya, the era of self-rule.
So what does this all mean? Well, it leaves us with an absolutely incredible question to ponder. How will this child, born amidst the ashes of a burned-down Pune, surrounded on all sides by massive, competing empires, rise to build an unstoppable, independent Maratha empire? The foundation is laid, the spark is ignited, but the real fire is yet to come. Keep that dramatic setup in mind as you explore the rest of this incredible history. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.